Thanks for joining us today. I'm Allison Manley, the Director of Marketing here at Canopy Studios. And today's webinar is for all those who manage content in WordPress. For extra accessibility, captions are enabled if you need them. A little bit about Canopy. We design, build, and support websites for clients who want to make a positive impact, which means we make the internet better one website at a time. And a little bit about Oliver Harrison, who's leading today's topic. He's a former WordPress developer who is now the WordPress engineering manager at Canopy. He helps his team be successful by coaching, mentoring, and unblocking any obstacles that prevents them from doing their best work. And in addition to this, he leads and helps clients understand how their requirements can be developed into a product that achieves their goals. If you have any questions during the webinar, we will work on the back end to get chat enabled, but please ask your questions in the Q&A as we go. And from here, I will turn it over to Oliver.
Thanks very much, Allison. I hope everybody's doing well today. So today's webinar is going to focus on three major sections, with the middle one being the most time spent. We will be talking about some of the selling points of WordPress. I'll be going over that rather quickly because since you are here, you probably know several of these already. I will be going through a few how-tos, and this will take up the bulk of our time today. I'll be creating reusable blocks. I'll show you how to use block patterns. I will be showing you how to use group blocks and create columns and or containers. I will show you how to use the post blocks so that you can display posts from either your blog posts or another post type. And finally, I'll show you how to insert images from Unsplash and put those into your media library quickly and easily. Along the way, there might be other little tips and tricks that you'll see me do that you might not have already known. And finally, I'm going to finish up with some possible pitfalls. I'll go over that rather quickly just so that you are aware of some of the things that that you might want to watch out for. Okay, so selling points of WordPress. Starting, if you're building a site now, you may or may not know about Gutenberg. Essentially, it's the block editor that drives the back end of WordPress now. The summary here is start with a block theme. These are easily findable inside WordPress by simply filtering for block themes inside WordPress.org on the Themes tab. You can get them from other places as well, but that's generally the best starting point now. As far as plugins are concerned, obviously there's lots of them, but Jetpack is a good one because it's made by the people that contribute to WordPress. And there's a variety of SEO plugins along with analytics, marketing, and lead gen plugins. So lots of selection. Additionally, community is really good. So there's lots of support. There's updates constantly being pushed out for the plugins or the themes that you use. And you can often reach out to a single developer or the developer of the theme or the plugin that you're using or having difficulties with. And you can often touch base with them and get some tips directly from them. Finally, there's some social integrations that you can add to any site via either the theme, sometimes plugins, and you can embed stuff from all over the place. And those buttons usually allow for sharing across any social network that you might be using. Okay, so jumping straight into the how-tos, we're going to create some reusable blocks. We're going to use block patterns. We're going to group some blocks and create some columns. And we're going to use a query loop to display your recent posts. And inside of some of these things, we're going to insert some images easily from popular free image sources. So just to go back here, I'm going to very briefly explain what a reusable block is. This is a block that allows you to use anywhere on your site, and it's always going to have a single source. And what that means is that once you've saved it as a reusable block, every time you use it, it's going to look the same and it's going to be updatable in one location. So let's say you're inserting a newsletter, that newsletter form will be in the same format and same text, same everything everywhere across your site. So wherever you use that, it'll show up. Block patterns are essentially the same thing, but they are more just a loose collection or a template, if you will, of blocks. And that allows you to create a block once and then reuse it many times. And you can modify that collection of blocks wherever you insert it so that it can have the content that you want. I'll show you how to use that. And grouping blocks using columns, this is just more about layout and how to make your content sit on the page nicely. And a query loop is what they call it when you're looping through your most recent posts, for example, and you're inserting those onto the page. And it could be a post from any post type that you might have. And this is just being handled with a plugin. So let's jump in. Okay, so I've created this website for the webinar, and we have essentially a pseudo restaurant page, restaurant website, I should say. And I'm going to jump into the home page, and we're going to start by creating a reusable block. Okay, I'll collapse this menu so that we can see a little bit more. And let's say right here, I wanted to create a call to action saying, or perhaps under the menu, I'm going to say, make a reservation for your dinner, something along those lines. So I will insert a block before this. One tip is that I always like to use the list view, and this allows you to quickly and easily duplicate blocks, move them around, like I'm going to do here. And you can see I've added a paragraph, but that's not really what I want. I'm going to use the built-in functionality in WordPress to choose a container. So let's put in some columns. And in this one, I'm going to insert a single column inside which I'm going to put another set of columns. I'll explain why I'm doing it this way in a second. Essentially, I want this parent block to be a full width block that I'm going to have a background image, or sorry, a background color on. So we're going to add a background color, and I'm going to make it a nice green here. Now, inside this one, I'm going to put, so we're inside this one column here, I'm going to put in an image. And I'm going to select from instant images, which is going to allow me to choose from Unsplash, Pixabay, or Pexels. And I'm going to find some delicious food. In fact, I will type delicious food. Let's see what happens. I'm going to choose an orientation of square or square-ish. And this looks pretty nice to me. So I'm going to pick this one. Okay, so now that should be available in my media library, and it looks like it's not, but I think I might have to open and close, but that's okay. I'm going to just choose this one here that I had already available to me, and that looks pretty nice. When you're creating columns and containers, layout is probably going to be pretty important to you. So here we've got a container, and I kind of want my text to align itself to the center of this image. So that's pretty easy to do. I'm going to go like this, and you can see immediately my text is aligning itself to the middle of this image here. And what I want to do is I want to set the spacing so that this image is going to go right up to the edge. So we're going to do that by removing some padding from all the different areas on these blocks. So this is a bit of a trick here because it didn't actually look like it had any padding set, but it does. So by hitting 0 on this, I can make sure that this is going to go right up to the top. One thing about this container is that I want this one to be aligned, so not full width, and I want this to be in the around 1200 pixel range. And what that's going to do is this one is going to be full width, and then this column here that's nested inside it will not be. And I might have that wrong. We might have to adjust this in a bit, but we're gonna see how this goes. So I'm going to put in a heading, and I'm going to say, book your dinner now. And then following that, I'm going to add a little paragraph. Put a couple in. And one more. Okay, sounds good. And I'm going to add, after this, I'm going to add some buttons. Okay, cool. We're going to say book a reservation. And didn't mean to add an extra block. And then inside this buttons group, I can hit plus, and let's add an icon button. And whoops, that's not the one I meant. I meant to add just a regular button, but put an icon in it. This one. And so if I go over to this group, we're going to just say view the menu. I can make these go vertical. And I'd like the second one to be a ghost. Okay, that's cool. And I'll add an icon. I'm going to search for food. Nice. Okay, that looks about like what I'd like. And I think that's looking good. I'm going to remove some extra padding here. And I'm going to just take a look at this. So I'm ready to update this for the moment. And I'm just going to reload the page over here. And there we go. Like I said, I think I got that wrong. So that's not quite what I'm looking for. So what I'm going to do here is go back to the size and spacing, go to alignment on the column that I've got set, reset that. And on the one inside it, size and spacing, and we're going to set it to this one. And we're going to align it to the center. Okay. Yeah, that looks good. This is a little bit tight, so I'm going to move that out a little bit. So on my second column, I think I could just add a little bit of padding here. Now, another tip that I like to tell people that are working with content a lot is I like to create a spacing system for myself. So really what that means is everything is going to be aligned to 8 pixels, for example. So I try to make any paddings going to be 8, 16, 24, 32, and try to be consistent about that. Okay, so we've used our columns and containers. I'm going to create a group block here so that I can reuse this content or move this content around really easily if I'd like to. So that's just a matter of selecting all of them with the shift key and saying group. Okay, that's cool. So now I could drag and drop this as a group much easier. But for now, I'm just going to leave it like that. And I want to reuse this. So I'm going to create this as a pattern. And I'm going to call this Book Your Dinner Now. And probably I didn't mean to have that in all caps, but that's great. Okay, so I'm going to update this page. And let's say I want to put this on another page. All right, let's go back to our pages. And let's say on the menu page, I'd like it to go right after this fish and meat. Okay. Again, I'm going to show my list element, going to collapse my menu so I get a little bit extra space here. I'm going to duplicate my spacer. And then before this, I'm going to insert another block. Now I want to insert a block pattern. Okay, so up here in the top left, I've created patterns. And I'm going to search for book your menu, book your dinner now. Perfect. That's the one I'm looking for. So now I have this block pattern that I can reuse wherever I want to reuse it. What's really neat about this is that if I close the search and I open this up, let's say on this page, I don't want it to be left image with right text, and I want to reverse that. You can do that. So just drag and drop. Now I've got a right image with left text, and I think that looks pretty good. Maybe on this one, I want the background color to be slightly different. So I can expand and choose a different color. Let's just go with a slightly more pale color for contrast and accessibility. And I'm going to view this page. You can see I have a practice block up there. That looks pretty good. And you can see that I don't really like how there's no gap here, but that's okay. I'm going to show you why you might want to use a reusable block in this case. Okay, so if I've done this and I've inserted this on 4 or 5 different pages, I now have to go edit it on every single page. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to take this sorry, I chose the wrong one. I'm going to take this block and I'm going to create a reusable block instead. So now that I'm going to create a reusable block, I'll be able to edit it in one spot. So I'm going to call this one Book a Reservation. And I've inserted a plugin called, I believe it's called Reusable Blocks. And it gives you a navigation item that allows you to see all your reusable blocks. So I'm just going to leave there. And here's my reusable block. Now, anywhere that this has been updated or inserted, I can update from this one location. So I'm just going to hit enter and update. If I go back to the page that I was on, oops, I went one too far. And I scroll down and I reload. It should update. Now it's not keeping the paragraph in here, and that's okay. I can fix this in a different way. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit of spacing around this particular block, and I'm going to add margin to the top. So we'll just give it, like I said, 8 pixel spacing, so 32 pixels. That's good. Now here's what's interesting is when I update this, it was supposed to update the reusable block. That's okay. If we go in here, we can update it in here. I think you get the idea. I've created these reusable blocks and I can insert them anywhere on the site from either, I can edit them here and then insert them on any page. And then I will have, once I've created a bunch of patterns, you can see that I can see all of my patterns here. Now, this is handled by a plugin named Blockmeister, which has this nice functionality where as you create more and more block patterns, it allows you to add them to categories, and that way you can sort and organize your block patterns exactly like you would a post or a page. As you can see, I've made a similar one here, and I've called it a little bit more descriptively left full height image, right CTA. You can do ones like this. I've done an animated one where this is where I work, and you can see you've got all these different images. Now I can insert this block pattern anywhere and swap out the images as I see fit. Okay, so we've touched on everything but the query block. So I'm going to very quickly show you how to do a query block. On my homepage, you can see that I've inserted one here, and I'm going to insert another one for you. I'm going to show my list. Insert after this. I'm going to type / and query, and I'm going to choose query loop. And let's say we'll keep it simple. So this is a template that you can modify by expanding the query loop and going into each of these elements. You can see there's only one of them because this is indeed a loop, and you can modify how many items you're going to show over here. So let's say I want 4 items to show, and I want to show from posts. That should be fine. There's the 4 items I've chosen. You can further filter this down to a taxonomy, like a category or something like that, if you want to only include a certain taxonomy that you want to pull those posts from, a very specific category, for example. I've created ones for cars, but just for fun, you can create a taxonomy as you see fit and then choose from that taxonomy. And this is really powerful because it doesn't have to be full width, so you can put it inside a column or a grid layout like I've done before. You can also pull from any other post type that you might have available that you have on your website, which is really, really cool. Okay, so some pitfalls. Plugins and themes. They, as you've noticed, if you've installed any, almost everything has a subscription nowadays. So everything is premium or pro. You get extra features that are locked behind a paywall, and this can add up really quickly. So just at the most fundamental level, be very careful investing in these plugins and these themes, because you could quickly get up to about $200, $300 a year without even knowing. Sorry, my scroll wheel is going a little bit haywire. Reusable blocks and patterns and cohesive design. This is a big one, and I find this is one that is really easy to struggle with, because once you have all the power of block patterns and reusable blocks, and even the pattern library where you can literally search for a pattern and find something that someone else has created and made public, all of a sudden your design can go out the window. So it no longer matches your look, it no longer matches your feel. They've used custom fonts that your theme isn't inheriting, and your website can start to look like a bit of a mess. So that's tricky. You have to be careful with that. Additionally, reusable blocks, as nice as they are, if it breaks, it'll break on every single page of your site. And there is no draft mode for that. It is just once you've changed it and you've saved a reusable block, it's going to, if it does break, and usually it doesn't, but it could if a plugin hasn't been updated or something like that, it's going to break on every page that you've got it. So you've got to get it fixed quick. Those are the things to keep in mind, but also my recommendation is always to choose a theme that you like, that has the blocks that you want included with it, or choose a plugin that gives you the same functionality that you're looking for from a theme, and don't go much beyond that. So don't have 5 different plugins that do the same sort of thing. Instead, try to stick with a couple. And that's what I'm mentioning here. So one of the big things is updates and abandonment of plugins. So there is very often messaging on WordPress whereby someone has either abandoned or sold a plugin, and the new owners may not be as careful with it as the previous ones. So you don't know that as a user of the plugin, and so they could be targeted for hacking or malicious. Some plugins can conflict with others and they can break things. And generally, you're going to have a better time of it if you use less plugins. That's the sum of it. These slides will be made available, and I realize I rushed through some of those, so don't worry, you'll be able to take a look at these slides after. And that brings us to the questions and answers period.
Thank you, Oliver. So if anyone does have a question, please feel free to type it into the Q&A section. But I have a question while other people are typing in theirs. What happens to a site? Because I have my own personal WordPress site. So what happens to my site if I need to disable a plugin that I'm using on those pages?
So that can be problematic. If you do have a plugin that provides blocks specifically that you've then used on a lot of those pages, everywhere that block has been inserted will give you an error on that page. So this is what I meant earlier by saying that it's probably not a good idea to use many of those. You want to use as few of those that provide block functionality as possible. If you can use just one, that's probably ideal. So in order to recover those blocks, you'll have to reproduce them with either native Gutenberg blocks that aren't tied to a plugin, or you'll have to just remove them from your site and update the page.
Sorry, mute. Thank you for that. I do see a question that came in from Jim. For the section, like that reservation section with multiple buttons, is there a way to force a consistent width on the buttons?
The section where I had these buttons down here. I see what you're saying. I'm not certain if there is. The better way to do it would be to force them to be full width, and then they would be constrained, inside the parent column. So you can say full width buttons, and that will give you that full width. Now, right now, it looks as though they're very narrow, but they're actually going to spread as wide as this column allows them to. So I don't believe in this particular function, you're able to limit the width of the buttons to a fixed size, although I could be wrong. Yeah, it doesn't look like you can manually do that. But a full width button might be what you're looking for in this case.
Okay. And then we have another question from Fabio. What percentage or range of customers that Canopy works with are using blocks and Gutenberg versus more traditional solutions such as page builders or ACF layouts?
So we do mix and match between pure Gutenberg blocks that we create and ACF blocks. We don't use page builders very often, if ever, at Canopy. We try to build custom blocks for our clients because they generally require greater functionality than what I'm showing here. So to that end, we will generally be creating either a fully custom Gutenberg block using React, or we'll be creating an ACF block using advanced custom fields. I can't give you a percentage. I'm not sure between those two.
Yeah, and there's also some performance and accessibility impacts there potentially as well.
Mm-hmm.
Another question, can people that use tools like Elementor move to completely design using blocks?
Yes, absolutely. I think transforming a site that was built in Elementor to using just Gutenberg blocks, or I guess the block editor blocks, that's a little trickier, because transforming it from one to the other is something where you'll just have to rebuild either the entire site, or you have to rebuild each individual block that had the functionality in Elementor once again inside Gutenberg.
Great. Well, that's all the questions. Oh, wait, one more just slipped in from Lane. Is there a function that allows you to preview what the content will look like on mobile?
Yes. In fact, on this particular theme, I believe you can just click preview and click the version that you'd like to see at any given moment. Another thing that's kind of neat is that if you notice, you can click these little buttons next to, this is using the Blocksy theme, by the way. And a lot of these buttons are context specific. So let me explain what I mean by that. As you can see, they're changing next to it. But interestingly, in addition, you have this little button. I'm going to jump down to this button group so that you can see what this means on an actual element where it matters. And that is that I can actually change hover styles as well as parent hovered styles. And that's how you can even make this zoom in. If you're hovered over anywhere in the entire block, you can say if parent is hovered, then you can zoom in. So there's lots of functionality around these elements. You can see I can change this to parent hovered. I'm not entirely certain why it's not showing here. Maybe I need to adjust this, unsure. But yeah, so there's, there we go. So if parent is hovered, I can modify on with that hover state. And then normal, I can reset. So it's a little bit out of hand, but yeah.
All right, we have two more. Maybe we can get them in under the wire, Oliver.
Sure, I'll go fast.
Do we ever recommend using pre-built templates like Astra?
As an agency, even a lot of the things that I'm showing here, we wouldn't build for a lot of our clients. So as far as a recommendation is concerned, I think that using pre-built templates has their place. This entire site was built using pre-built templates. Obviously, I didn't put this together, but there's value in that. There's value in using those templates. Where I see the greater value is when they're built with blocks like you see here. Now, all the pink ones, these are all part of the theme or a companion plugin that go along with the theme. And that's how they sort of tie you into, you have to now use this theme forever. And that's okay to a degree. If it suits your purposes, then I think that's fine. I wouldn't want these to be page builder blocks that weren't compatible with Gutenberg, because then they are adding extra code to the theme or the site that I can't remove out of it. At the very least, I could rebuild this, maybe not quite as slick a way. I could rebuild this using a core Gutenberg block. But if it was in Astra and it wasn't compatible with Gutenberg, then maybe that might not be the case. So I would try to stick with things that are embracing the Gutenberg block editor.
Okay, great. Let's squeeze in one more if we can.
Sure.
Eleanor is wondering how to change the image associated with a page link, such as when you share a WordPress page link with another person. How do you change the picture that they see along with that link?
Right. The very easiest way to do that, and I'm not entirely certain I have one installed, I don't, is to use an SEO plugin. I prefer the SEO framework, and I do have suggestions, by the way, at the bottom here, suggested plugins and themes. I like the SEO framework. There's a lot of other options in this space, but the reason I recommend those is those allow you generally to customize the image that you'll show on a per page basis, as well as the global site image if one isn't available. So for instance, if I view a blog post and I didn't use a featured image, it will revert back to the default. If I did use a featured image, it will generally inherit the featured image as the shared post image along on social media. So that the SEO plugins allow you to customize that super easily.
All right, wonderful. Well, we are over time. I do want to thank everybody who asked a number of questions. That's all the time we've got. However, we are going to be sending out this recording and the link to the PDF of this deck, so you can get the links to all of those suggested plugins and themes. So look for that in your inbox in a few days. A reminder that if you need help with your site or you just have a question, Canopy is happy to help. So please email us at hello@canopy.com, and have a really wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, everyone.